So we're just about to start off on our journey to Somerset this morning, and the reason I'm recording this and making an article about it is that the journey is over 150 miles, and one of the things people get very concerned about with electric cars is they say, oh, the range isn't enough to go any distance. Well, 150 miles isn't a huge journey, but it's quite a long one. And I mean, my point about it is that you have to stop on a journey anyway, so all that matters with the range is you've got enough range so that when you go on a journey and you make your normal stops and you plug your car in while you're stopped, it's not going to take any longer than it would otherwise if you didn't have to plug in. So you really just need enough range to get between the points where you'd stop. Now the car I'm driving is a Peugeot Iron, and it's a rebadged version of a Mitsubishi IBF. And it has a very short range. It's really meant as a city car. It has a range of about 70 miles at the moment. We've got 68 miles on our calculator at the moment. We've only just started with 100% charge. So we're going to have to stop rather more than we'd like to. The ideal range for a car, as far as I can see, for my kind of use, would be about 120 miles, which would definitely not impede me in any way. So I'm going to have to make about one more stop than I would normally do. That's all, in order to complete this journey. We'll make three stops on the 150 miles. So here we go. This is the first leg of the journey, and we're starting off. The time is 20 to 8 in the morning on the 14th of July 2018. So we'll be recording the journey as we go, various stages of it. And then you'll see how we get on. Okay, so let's get on with it. So our first stop will be Hopwood Park Services on the M42.
At the end of the road, turn left. Turn left. Go right on the roundabout, third exit.
So it's fairly early for a Saturday morning, so we've not got a lot of traffic to contend with this morning.
Go right on the roundabout, third exit.
So we're just approaching the beginning of the A42, which soon becomes the M42. So this is the last part of our rural roads we're driving on this morning, and from now on it'll be straight motorway all the way, and we'll just be going between charging points.
On the roundabout, first exit.
Charging points on the motorway. So we're 40 miles away from our first stop, and we've got 61 miles of range So we should arrive with 20 miles to spare, which is about what you'd like. So we're doing 65 miles per hour at the moment. I don't like to do much more than 65 because it eats up the range too much for no good purpose. 60 miles an hour is 1 mile every minute, so that's not too bad a speed. Now I'm going to tuck in behind this lorry, this tanker, because it keeps the headwind off us and reduces the air drag, because there's a little pocket of air moving along behind it that we're now in. They're doing 56 miles now. It's a bit slower than I could hope for, but again, perfectly acceptable speed for the moment. The A42 is quite a nice road, nice and green and spacious, and on a day like today when the sun's shining, it's quite a pleasant place to be. Still slightly misty at the moment. The sun's not really burnt through the overnight mist. So we're just coming up to the M42 now. Doesn't make a great deal of difference, just very slightly different rules apply on a motorway, that's all. Looks pretty much the same. So we're just passing into Warwickshire now. In England, the land is divided up into counties, administrative areas really, although they date back centuries. We were in Leicestershire, we're now in Warwickshire. These motorways are wildlife havens to a certain extent, because all down the side there's a little bit of wild woodland or whatever that's untouched by man. Despite all the traffic whizzing by, there's that area just at the side where it doesn't belong to anybody particularly, and no one ever goes there. So wildlife is able to flourish in that little area and run up and down that little corridor. Provided they keep away from the motorway, that is. So our charge state is coming down to about 75% at the moment, and according to our range calculator we've got 48 miles left. We've only got 28 miles left to do, so we're still maintaining that 20-mile spare that we started with. So that means we're doing fine on the use of resources at the moment. Now this lorry is turning off, so we've lost our wind cover. Now that lorry's gone, you've got a better view out the window now. The one disadvantage of slipstreaming, you just get to see the back end of a lorry for miles on end. Of course, sad to say, a lot of this mist that you can see in the distance is probably pollution. All these engines belching out their carbon dioxide and poisonous fumes, every one of them with a little atmospheric pollution pipe sticking out the back. It's quite bizarre really. So we found another lorry, but unfortunately somebody's already in the slipstream spot. We can't just go forcing our way in between, so we just have to make do with this, which won't give us very much. So we've got a caravan now to slipstream. So going a bit faster.
After 700 yards, keep right, then take the motorway.
So this is where the M42 joins the M6. Which we don't want, so we have to keep our wits about us, make sure we don't end up on the wrong road. Otherwise we're totally messed up. So we want the M42 southwest, so we're on the right bit for that. So we're not far from quite a lot of big towns and cities where we are here. The motorway gets quite busy.
Take the exit, then take the motorway.
So we're in the right lane for the M42 southwest. We're allowed to use the inside lane again. Not quite sure what that was all about. So we've got 17 miles to go to our first stop. 35 miles of range. So we're still doing all right. So we've only got 8 miles to go now.
Ahead, keep right. Exit ahead.
So there's a sign for Hopwood Park Services where we're having our break. 1.5 miles to go.
Take the exit, then go right on the roundabout, 4th exit.
So we're coming off the motorway now. And looking for the services. So I'm ready for a break. So we've only done about 50 miles. I find it hard to understand these people who say they drive for 200 miles without stopping. I certainly couldn't.
You have reached your destination.
So the first time you come to these places, the main difficulty is trying to find where the chargers are. Having been to them quite a few times, I know where to go now, because they're quite sprawling places with endless car parks and the like. Okay, so here we are at Hopwood Park Services, and first job now is to get the car plugged in, ready to go off. So we're still at Hopwood Park Services, just to make sure that we've got enough to get to the next stop. I'm charging up beyond the 80%. It normally stops at 80%, and according to the calculator, 80% will give us sufficient range to get to the next stop, but cutting it a bit fine, we'd only have about 10 miles of range according to the calculator. So we're just giving it a little bit more, get up to 85–90% just to give us that little bit more. So we're just about to depart from Hopwood Park Services now, and we're on our way to the next stop, which is Gloucester Services, which is 46 miles away. So we'll see how we get on. So we're back on the M42 now, and we'll shortly be coming up to the M5, which is the last motorway we'll be using. The M5 takes us all the way down past Worcester, Gloucester, all the way down to near Bath, and that's where we'll be coming off for another long haul. So we're having to go fairly slow at the moment because we're trying to make the best of our rain, but we've got no one to slipstream. I can see a coach coming up behind, so we'll be able to get behind that once it's arrived. So we're keeping our current indicator below, I think it's about a quarter of the available current. We're now using about a third of the current because we're going uphill slightly. Makes a lot of difference to the hill. So we're on the M5 and we've got 35 miles to go, and the range calculator is saying 53 miles, so that's nearly 20 miles more than we need now. So I've actually increased our range on the calculator by being a bit careful. As far as actual battery capacity goes, we've got about 75%, where 50% is enough for at least 30, for 75%, that's enough for at least 45. So we've got at least 10 miles by any calculation, so we're all right. We might not really even have needed to do that extra charging up, but better to be safe than sorry, I think. I've never yet run out of charge, but I can imagine what it would be like. So although it might not look it, we're actually going uphill here. So we're using about a third of the current as we could be using. Of course, this is the sort of thing that can make your calculations go wrong on range, because there's no way of knowing from the map, really. Well, you could if you had a detailed ordnance map with the contour lines and everything. You could work out where the hills were, whether they're going up or down, but the satellite navigation system doesn't give you any indication of whether the road is going up or down. So if it was uphill all the way to Gloucester Services, then we'd never make it. So you can only hope for a kind of averaging out. We're down to 50% on our battery capacity, and we have 16.6 miles to go. So 50% is at least 30 miles, so we're doing quite well. We have a spare 14 miles. So we're just making up a bit of time now, going a bit faster now that we know we're doing alright on the range. We've only got 10 miles left to do, and I know I can do 10 miles on about 4 segments on the capacity indicator, and I've got about 7 there. So we'll get to Gloucester Services, no problem. We'll get there a bit quicker behind this coach.
After 800 yards, you have reached your destination. You have reached your destination.
Here we are at the famous Hopwood Services. Seems quite popular, doesn't it? I can remember where the chargers are. I think we've got to go right, where we can get moving. So here we are, and the charging is free today, so that's a good thing. Well, we'll get topped up nicely. It's 10:17 and we have arrived at Gloucester Services. So this is the second stop on our route, and the nicest services there are, really. Having written an article about it before. So we're going to charge up, and then this is one disadvantage of this particular car having such a short range, because we're going to have to stop at the next services as well, which is only 15 miles away, just to make sure we've got enough to get from there to the destination. It's 43 miles to the destination from the next services. We don't have quite enough to make the destination from here, so we've got to stop after only 15 miles to top up. But there you are. So we could do with just that little bit extra range, which we haven't got on this car. But of course, modern cars like the Nissan Leaf, you know, with a range of about 185 miles on long journeys, would be very nice for this trip. Wouldn't have to charge at all. But I'd stop here anyway, because it's so nice. So we are plugged in now, and the machine says we have 25%. So if we take the range as being 60 on 100%, and 25% is a quarter of that, which is 15. So according to that, we could have just about scraped into the next services without stopping here. But there's no way I'd miss stopping at Gloucester anyway, because it's such a nice place. Anyway, we're going to go and have a break now. So we've stopped here rather longer than we needed to. I was really needed just to top up really to get down to the next services. It's only 15 miles away, but it's so nice here. I just had to look around and take a few photographs and a bit of extra footage for the film. So we've actually got 80% charge. It's rather more than we needed. And then of course at the next station we'll have to charge up as much as possible to make sure we can get all the way to the destination. So that's where we are now. We've just finished at Gloucester Services. It's 10:54 and we're off again. Right, we're just setting off on the last stage of our journey now. And we've got calculated 63 miles of range to do 43 miles, so it should make it all right. We'll soon find out.
After 200 yards, turn right. After 80 yards, turn right. Turn right. Exit ahead. Take the exit, then keep left. After 200 yards, keep left, then take the motorway. Keep left. Exit ahead. After 800 yards, take the exit. Take the exit. After 700 yards, go right on the roundabout, third exit. Go right on the roundabout, third exit. Take the exit.
So we're well off the motorways now. Slightly more picturesque part of the world. We've got 22 miles to go. And about 35 miles of range according to the calculator. So you should be all right. All that worries me around here is it's a bit hilly, so hills could shorten the range.
Cross the roundabout, second exit. 200 yards, keep right. Keep right.
So we've got about 50% battery capacity and 14 miles left to do. So I think we're pretty safe now. Although this is all very uphill along here, they're using a lot of capacity on this hill. "10 miles on this new route. And got about 25 miles of range by my estimate. So it's not affecting the range too much, but it's affecting the arrival time.
At the end of the road, turn right.
Oh dear. These people who say they drive 200 miles without a rest, I'm worn out. And we're only doing 150 altogether. And I've had 2 rest breaks. Getting a lot of unpleasant traffic fumes in the car as well. All this slow traffic. We go right here.
At the end of the road, turn right.
Still following this damn diversion. So all this extra traffic will be making it more congested. Oh well, it appears to be moving anyway. The canal.
After 300 yards, turn right. Turn right.
Well, thanks very much. Thank you very much.
At the end of the road, turn right. After 200 yards, you have reached your destination.
Right, so we have arrived at our destination now. Frome in Somerset, where my daughter lives. It's not too bad. 150 miles. It's taken over 5 hours to get here. With all the rests and stops as well. But it does show that range isn't that big an issue. Even with a small city car like this, we can get this sort of distance. We only stopped more or less where we would have stopped anyway, apart from that one place where we had to stop at Michaelwood Services. With a slightly longer range. If we had even an old Nissan Leaf, we could have just stopped at Gloucester and come straight here from Gloucester without taking in Michaelwood as well. We've still got about 10 miles of range left, so we've done quite well really. Anyway, that's the end of our journey. So thank you very much for following me all this way.